Did Spain miss its chance to conquer Portugal? 1580, the most powerful empire in the world, just doubled in size. Spain and Portugal, two bitter rivals, united under one crown. It should have been the birth of an unstoppable superpower. Instead, it became one of history's greatest missed opportunities. This is the story of how Spain's greatest triumph became its defining failure, and how a small nation outsmarted an empire. Historical context. In 1494, Spain and Portugal literally divided the world in half with the Treaty of Tordesillas. Spain claimed the West, Portugal the East. But for Spain, this wasn't enough. They wanted it all. By 1580, Spain's coffers held twice the gold of every other European power combined, an estimated 35 million ducats, enough to buy the entire city of London. Their army, the legendary tercios, hadn't lost a major battle in over a century. Portugal's wealth from their spice trade made them the perfect target. Build up to crisis. But Portugal was far from helpless. Their naval technology was unmatched. Portuguese caravels could sail closer to the wind than any other ships in Europe, and their naval charts were so valuable that stealing one was punishable by death. In the Indian Ocean, Portuguese trading posts brought in over 2,000 tons of pepper annually, worth more than all the gold Spain received from the Americas in a year. The catalyst. Then came the disaster that changed everything. August 4th, 1578, the Battle of Alcácer Quibir. King Sebastian of Portugal, just 24 years old, led 17,000 men into Morocco on a crusade. They faced an army of 50,000. What followed was one of the bloodiest battles in North African history. Sebastian charged straight into the enemy lines and vanished. His body was never found. The power play. Some Portuguese believed Sebastian would return one day, a belief that would haunt Spain's rule for decades. They called it Sebastianism, and it became a symbol of Portuguese resistance. But Philip II of Spain didn't wait for ghosts. He had a claim to the Portuguese throne through his mother, and he had something more convincing: 40,000 veteran soldiers on the Portuguese border. The Union. Think about the scale of what happened next. When Philip II seized Portugal in 1580, he controlled an empire where the sun truly never set. From Brazil to the Philippines, from Peru to Macau, nearly half the known world answered to one crown. The combined fleet numbered over 300 ships. To put that in perspective, it was larger than all other European navies combined. The problems begin. But managing an empire of this size revealed critical weaknesses. Spanish gold fleets took months to cross the Atlantic. Portuguese spice ships needed a year to reach India. When Dutch raiders attacked Brazil or English pirates struck the Philippines, help was always too far away. The empire was too big to defend, too vast to control. Seeds of rebellion. By 1600, the cracks were showing. Portuguese nobles were excluded from major decisions. Spanish troops occupied key Portuguese fortresses. Portuguese ships were requisitioned for Spanish wars. The proud Portuguese navy, once rulers of the Indian Ocean, watched helplessly as Dutch and English traders carved up their trading empire. The breaking point. December 1st, 1640. A group of Portuguese nobles stormed the royal palace in Lisbon. The Spanish governor, Miguel de Vasconcelos, was thrown from a window. His body landed in the courtyard where an angry crowd waited. Within hours, the streets erupted in rebellion. Spain's response? They took 6 months to send troops, a delay that would cost them everything. The Restoration War. What followed was a 28-year struggle that would determine the fate of both nations. Portugal was outnumbered, but they had 3 advantages: difficult terrain, British support, and Spanish distraction. While Spain fought France in the north, Portuguese guerrillas struck from the hills. When Spain sent armies, Portuguese defenders chose their battlegrounds carefully. The decisive moment. The Battle of Montijo in 1644 proved decisive. Spanish forces, confident in their superior numbers, charged the Portuguese lines. But the Portuguese had hidden cavalry in the woods. When the Spanish infantry advanced, they were caught in a deadly crossfire. Over 4,000 Spanish soldiers fell in a single day. The myth of Spanish invincibility was shattered. The legacy. By 1668, Spain had to accept reality. Portugal was independent again, but the cost was enormous. Spain had lost its chance to dominate the peninsula. Portugal had lost much of its overseas empire to Dutch expansion. The only real winners? England and France, who watched their greatest rival exhaust itself in a war it couldn't win. Modern perspective. The story of the Iberian Union teaches us something crucial about power. Sometimes being too powerful can be your greatest weakness. Spain's empire was so vast that it couldn't focus its strength where it mattered most. Portugal's resistance succeeded not because they were stronger, but because they were more focused, more determined, and more patient. Conclusion. So did Spain miss its chance to conquer Portugal? Perhaps the better question is, did Spain's own success make failure inevitable? The answer might lie in a Portuguese proverb from the time, "A small country is not weak when it knows its strength." What do you think? Was the Iberian Union doomed from the start? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're fascinated by stories of empires, resistance, and the price of power, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest turning points.